So, Pope Francis is in favor of civil unions for same-sex couples. Alright, this is going to be a shorter video, but I can't hold it in. I have to talk about this or I feel like I'm going to explode. The Pope is featured in a new documentary called Francesco, and in it he seems to endorse civil unions. He said, quote, "Homosexual people have the right to be in a family, they are children of God." And he said, "What we have to have is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered." End quote. According to some on Twitter, I'm supposed to be excited about his newfound progressive ideas, which aren't really progressive at all. Just a rehashing of the same argument we had 20 years ago, when Christian fundamentalists and other assorted bigots pivoted from their usual slippery slope fallacies and scaremongering about pedophilia because they realized they were going to lose and turned instead towards civil unions. We then had to explain to them that separate isn't equal, and that's still the case. I guess someone forgot to inform the Pope. Or the people who think I should gush over him because he might have moved from being a hateful troll to being a little tiny, itty-bitty, bit less of a hateful troll towards the LGBT community. But maybe you think I'm being too hard on Francis. After all, he's the first pope to openly endorse same-sex civil unions. That should count for something, right? Yeah, I guess. However, Francis has spent his career opposing gay rights. For example, in 2010, Mr. Progressive Civil Union said, quote, he criticized a gay marriage bill passed into law in Argentina in 2010 as a destructive attack on God's plan. End quote. He's opposed gay adoption, saying that children need heterosexual parents, and that gay adoption is a form of discrimination against children. He's repeatedly attacked trans people. Here's a quote from a 2016 article. Pope Francis reaffirmed his disagreement with teaching gender identity in schools on Sunday, after earlier calling it a war against marriage. On a return flight to Rome at the end of a 3-day trip to Georgia, the Pope recounted a meeting with a French father whose young son wanted to be a girl after reading about it in a textbook. "This is against nature," he said. "It's one thing when someone has this tendency, and it is another matter to teach this in school. To change the mentality, I call this ideological colonization," the Pope said. In other words, like every pope before him, he has repeatedly and viciously attacked the LGBT community and done long-lasting, demonstrable harm to them and their families. But we're supposed to give him a virtual high five because he's come around enough to put forth a suggestion that we should have easily put to rest 20 years ago. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't muster that sort of enthusiasm. The best I could say is it's a very small form of harm reduction. It's a small, shuffling step towards basic human decency, but it's not nearly enough. In fact, I'd say he should be openly apologizing to the LGBT community for the years upon years of unnecessary suffering they've contributed to, openly endorse equal marriage laws, and dedicate the church's considerable resources towards making amends for the suffering they've directly and indirectly caused. Until then, I can't bring myself to do it. Not for doing something that doesn't even meet the bare minimum required for basic human rights and dignity. I'm sorry. I expect better.
You take me home, invite me in. The lights go down.